Hello racers, welcome back, and in today's video I have a really spicy deck for you. So let's get to it. We will start with the giveaway. We are extremely happy with how many people participated. We are so glad on how big the community is getting. And I did the raffle for the prizes live on Patreon, so nobody would question the legitimacy of it. And I will announce the winners shortly. Next, we will talk about the deck. It's Han2 Security Complex. We will go to the lines of play and sideboard in the end. Okay, so those are the winners. I've commented under their responses with the video, asking for the details to contact them. As for the Patreon, I was already in contact on how to send the playmat. So congratulations to everybody. Under the last video, I responded to your comments asking for an email, and I will send you the code to get the tier 2 Patreons while I get your email information. Okay, and let's go to the main event, so to the deck list. So Han2 is one of the most powerful leaders ever introduced to Star Wars, and you can build him in many different ways. Han2 Force is a value engine that will just constantly get 2-for-1 during the game. Han2 ECL is one of the most powerful aggressive tempo decks that will just dominate on the ground and try to win from getting advantage from ECL. And now Han2 Security Complex is a deck that will just abuse the Han's ability to its fullest and then protect your overpowered turn 1 plays with shield to just push as much damage as possible. This is a pure aggro deck. You go base, you really rarely, there's only a certain matchups when you trade anything, and even if your opponent kills everything you have to play, this deck can dish out damage from hand like none other deck before. So Heroic Sacrifice, Nemec, Cassian, K2, Pod, or even just Daring Reading Phase, you will almost always be able to close the game if you manage to deal like 80% of their life before they turn it around. So let's go over few the most powerful plays, and if you can't do those plays I will be talking later, you can always just play on curve, and playing on curve in this deck is still really powerful because almost everything synergizes really well. So turn 1, this is the turn that is the most important one. Ogdo, Bogdo, and Phantom with shield are insane. You basically have a 5 power unit that is protected, that will dish out a lot of damage, and it's really hard to remove. We also can do similar thing with Sabine Masterpiece. Even though it deals a little bit less damage, it's actually sometimes even better while racing, because if you get the red and blue unit, you will be swinging for 6, because 2 heal on your base and 1 damage, so it essentially is 6 damage swing. And those are your best turn 1 plays versus certain decks that run Power of the Dark Side or removal that can deal with them. You can always just go into your space aggro phase, so A-Wing or Restore Dark, or Nemec, because it's Nemec, it's the most powerful turn 1 play in the game. And in this deck also, he is a rebel. Almost everything here is a rebel, so Phantom, Masterpiece, A-Wing, Restored Arc, and Nemec. Only Ogdo is not a rebel, and he doesn't synergize with the rest of the deck that well, but on the other hand, he's a 5/3 that heals when attacked, and versus certain leaders, you don't even need a shield on him to be powerful. Turn 2, since most of our things is Rebel, we can just utilize like the set 1 power plays of Rebel deck, so Wing Leader and Fleet Lieutenant. Swinging for 7 with Phantom turn 2 can end the game extremely quickly, and if we didn't do it, we can always just go into playing on curve with fighters that are really well positioned into the current meta. K2, which always push some damage, and if you shield him, he can actually trade up with a lot of plays that the main decks are dishing out. And Ezra, which is like a semi-combo because he is a rebel, and at the same time, he is also buffing out Ogdo and Phantom and Masterpiece. So, as I said, this deck is really bringing up a lot of synergies between cards. And even if you don't use them, all of those cards are powerful on their own. And turn 3, except from playing on curve or playing a combination of cards, the most busted interaction you can do in this deck is Poe plus Security Complex. Poe is insane. Like this card, I don't know if we will ever have more powerful 5-drop. And since we cannot use ECL, we can always just play him on 4, and with shield, not many decks can remove him in any way, and then he will just be a protecting 6-power or 8-power attacker into your opponent base. And in this deck, he will almost always threaten 10 damage, because Heroic Sacrifice plus his ability is 10, or Hotshot Blaster plus his ability is 10. So he is as insane as in any other version of Han2. And lastly, whenever you go into that position that your opponent stabilized, even though it's not that common, because this deck, it's really hard to stabilize versus this deck, using Han's ability on Nemec basically means that you will push 2 damage. So it's 1 mana for 2 damage base, that will be leaving a unit. And playing him for 2 is also really amazing because he is hidden, so your opponent cannot trade into him, and they can't remove him, because then you are threatening that 2 or even more damage with the spy. Gorilla Attack Pod is the second unit that has amazing synergy with Han2 because it's a 5 mana 6/4 untapped unit. And even another synergy, it is a rebel, so you can play Pod plus Fleet Lieutenant or even just Wing Leader it for additional damage. Hotshot Blaster, this is a card that I basically start every single deck by including 1 copy, and in this deck it's just really good finisher. And Heroic Sacrifice, if you trade, it's just a free card, but if you go base with a unit like Nemec, it can not only deal that +2, but also triggers his ability, so it's basically a 7 damage to base with Nemec, 9 damage to base with K2, so it's another card that just brings out how synergistic this deck is. But it is a Han2 deck, so there are certain things that counter it, and the biggest one is Tarkin Town. That's why we are playing 6 copies of cards that completely annihilate Tarkin Town decks. Like Grogu and Cassian, even though they are not good enough for this deck to be played in main, and of course it may change depending on how prevalent Tarkin Town decks are. So if, for example, it's a really big part of the meta, you can play few Grogus and Cassian in the main, but right now 3 Cassians, 3 Grogus in the sideboard completely flips the matchups into like Cad, Padme, Quinlan, or even like Han 4, because you completely nullify their base. Security Complex is the one part that makes it much harder for Tarkin Town decks to utilize it, because you basically both play without a base and 25 HP, and your deck is really aggressive, but Grogu and Cassian stops it completely. The other card that these decks can struggle to is explosive turns. For example, Gar Saxon Emergency Power plays, and for this we have Kit Fisto because it also allows us to have another answer for pilot decks. So this is just like a 2-for-1. We not only counter our biggest threat, but we also counter the other. We have a good card versus other pilot synergies. And last card is Bombing Run. Bombing Run is a weird card. This deck can really struggle into like Vader and go wide strategies in space. So having a copy of Bombing Run is just a safety. But if those strategies are not prevalent in the meta, we have many other cards in this color combinations that can be added. If we need more power, we can always add Lux. If we need more aggressive stance, we can always use For a Cause. Even though I don't think you can use For a Cause well in the main deck, because we are playing quite a few cards that are not in aspect, so Chams, Ogdos, Outer Rims, and Daring Raids. But with a clever sideboard, you could cut some of them out. You could always add another Cham Syndulla, because versus ramp decks, it's really a powerful tool, and especially versus Han1. And yeah, so this is the build that we created. We tested it in the past few weeks, and it was performing incredibly well. It's really well positioned into the meta that we are currently having, because it can stop heroic space decks really easily with like Shielded Phantom. It has amazing matchup into Anakin, because Shielded Ogdo Bogdo is basically unkillable for Anakin. And even if you don't start with Ogdo Bogdo, shields in general are really hard to Anakin to deal with. And if you combine the shields with bonus attack, it makes his I want to trade up, I want to push as much damage early playstyle really ineffective. Yeah, so this is the build. I hope you will enjoy playing it. The games will be fast, you will have a lot of combos, and it's just really fun to like finish the game when your opponent completely didn't expect that you would suddenly on 5 resources put out 7 damage from hand from nowhere. And lastly, as always, I want to thank our Patreons. We are consistently growing, and right now Sip will release his next written guide on Han2 ECL, and we are really looking forward to it, because this is a deck that I think we have the most experience on and can show lines and show like tricks that not many people know about. Thanks, everybody.